Welcome to the Attack Action Podcast,
where we talk about friendship, fun times, and most importantly, flesh and blood. Here are your hosts, Taylor and Isaac.
Hello, Attactioneers. I'm your host, Taylor, with my co-host, Isaac. What's up, dude?
Today we're doing a bonus episode. We decided to do a set review for this set. This will be our first set review ever, but we're getting on the hype train. We wanted to to rate some cards in terms of limited play only.
Yeah, so we are going to go through basically the whole set and give every card a rating in what we think is their pickability, playability, viability, all of the above for specifically draft, and a little bit of sealed as well. But since draft is kind of the premier limited format coming up in the next Road to Nats season, and professional level events like Nationals and the Pro Tour, we thought it was pertinent. This is, I think, probably coming out the same day as Arsenal Pass's set review if they're doing one. So enjoy that 6-hour marathon of four dudes all talking about the same set. I think it would be interesting. I'm excited to listen to theirs to see how it differs from ours, if at all.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, so our set, we wanted to get this out before pre-release weekend, but we have not had the opportunity to play any limited with this set yet. So this is all speculative, our first impression, knee-jerk reactions, right? Don't, flipping at me because you picked a card and lost your, pre-release. But we did go through and think about these cards and interactions, and so we're going to try to give you our best takes on them.
Totally. A few other housekeeping things. If you have not listened to our part 1 and part 2 of our draft series, I would say go do that as well. That'll give you a lot of tips and strategies for the upcoming draft season we are about to embark on. And like and subscribe, support us on Patreon, etc. All of that stuff. You guys know the drill if you've been here before. Then lastly, so the rating system we're using is 1 to 4 stars is how we rated cards, which I think was an okay way to rate the cards. It definitely has some limitations as it doesn't allow a lot of nuance for the picks. So you're going to hear a lot of like 2 stars, 3 stars, and that sort of thing. But I think that is still pretty useful information. But sometimes, like if 2, 3 stars are in your hand, you will have to like make the educated decision on which one to pick because of the kind of limitations of the ratings we used. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we might bump it up to a 5-star system in the future, but I also found, with our limited knowledge of the set, this just kind of boils it down, right? Like 4 stars are incredibly good. 3 stars are good, well-performing cards, right? Like 2 stars, functional, might merit a slot, but definitely like not priority worthy really, or, might just slide in there because 1 star is just bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I went with it. Are we on the same page, Taylor?
I think so. Yeah. My 4 stars are the best cards in the set, or, for, different reasons usually. And then, yeah, your 3 stars are your good staple cards, right? Those are what you want most of your deck to be of. And then 2 stars are the okay cards. They're like maybe the ones that are passed to you at the end of a pack that you can then play, is how I kind of thought of that. And then, yeah, 1 star is terrible. Just bad. I think I have a 0 star in here, but we'll get to
Oh,
that.
nice. I
Another
just gave him
thing.
one.
Oh, nice. I think I have it labeled as 1 or less. I don't know, or something like that. Another thing me and Isaac did is we did this separately and have compared 0 notes. So we're going to be doing all of our takes are going to be a surprise to one another on the pod at the same time. So could add some extra excitement to the podcast.
Let's do it.
Okay. So we're going from in number order here. So we're going to start off with let's start off with the weapons first, and um just I wanted your thoughts on the 3 weapons that are in this set. What do you think about them? Because they're the only ones, right? We have no majestic weapons. You're stuck with the storm of Sandakai and Waning Moon, etc. So
I kind of like, I mean, I know for everybody it's a bummer you can't pull majestic weapons or it lacks a bit of depth, but I kind of like this. Just from our previous episode using the example of Winter's Whale.
mhm.
Sometimes majestic weapon pulls can just kind of make your deck a bit overpowered since it's a weapon and starts out on the field for you. So in that way, to me, this balances it quite well. As far as the weapons go, I think Fies is just fine, right?
Mhm.
Functions in its slot, gives you a chain link, pitch a blue, play a card in the weapon. Um, the Storm of Sandakai, typical illusionist weapon. It is really powerful in that it enables your Aether Wings, but also a bit scary because you can't lean on it, right? You can run out of threats and you have no weapon. Um, I think Waning Moon is extremely powerful, and uh, it kind of changed my opinion on a lot of cards in the set once I saw Waning Moon, and I think that uh, I don't know. That's a very good wizard weapon and makes the whole class and all of her cards like quite a lot better, right? Because even if you play a non damage 1 cost, you can still use Waning Moon. So I really enjoy that interaction. Um, what do you think, Taylor? You have any hot takes?
No, I think that's about on par. Like, Storm of Sandakai really is just an extra text box ability for Dromai. And the Searing Ember Blade is definitely a pretty serviceable weapon, useful. But yeah, that Waning Moon is kind of the best, I think, weapon in the set. Um, and could be like actually maybe, I don't know. It could be really powerful in limited because there are a lot of like 0 or 1 cost uh blue non-attack actions you can play out of arsenal at instant speed and then get that like 3 damage in. So it could add up pretty quickly, that extra arcane damage on your opponent's turn. So all right, let's start this bad boy off. So first up is Silken Form, which is the Draconic Illusionist equipment arms. So I give this a 3-star rating. It does a lot for your hero. It defends. It's basically, a staple of the class, really. Thoughts, Isaac?
Yeah, I also gave it 3 stars. I think the Quell ability is quite powerful in this set because it applies to arcane damage from multiple sources like the staff and something else. It applies to Aether Wings and it applies to Fi's, uh, you know, 1 plinker go wide attacks. And the nature of Quell is that you can pitch a blue and block, several sources of damage before you lose the equipment. So I think that all of the Quell 1 equipment is pretty pretty essential.
Yeah, and you can
Um,
use Quell and its instant ability, I believe, in in one fell swoop there. So
yes, you
you
can.
can get a lot of value out of it. So if you're in Draconic Illusionist, you definitely want to pick up Silken Form for sure.
Yep. So our next card, and we're not going to read off the cards for time's sake, so follow along in the card
Yeah.
gallery. Our next card is Burn Them All, which I gave 4 stars.
Wow.
I think this card, yeah, is incredibly good. It's non-functional until you have some Aether Wings out, but it blocks for 3. It's a free red card, so you can play it at the start of your turn to then give all your dragons go again, right? Like none of your dragons do anything until you've played a red card. So 1 card from hand, you can play this, pumps them all, and then you can attack with all of them. It also will probably hang out for a little while due to its like relatively low cost to stay in play. Um, so for all those reasons, I think this card is just fantastic. Taylor, what's your
I gave
take?
it 2 stars.
Ooh, nice.
So for me, like Dromai has this like whole engine she needs to get going, right? And if you don't have, a surplus of dragons and ash and like all of these things, then really all this card is doing is giving your dragons go again and then maybe dealing 1 or 2 damage, maybe only over like 2 turns because it's draft. So who knows how many like red cards you're actually going to have in your graveyard by the time this gets out there, etc. So it just is like has to be a really specific timing for this card for it to be really good. So that's why I gave it 2 stars. It has like for sure an upside, but uh at face value, just being able to play it, yeah, not not the greatest. Okay. Do you want to rebuttal or is that good?
No, I will say that in Dromai, all of these red cards are actually not a huge, um, I don't know, liability because you do need some blues, right? But reds are also your resource cards in a lot of instances. So I see a lot of these red cards as being less, I guess, like I said, less of a liability, which I kind of think is important in some of my rating considerations. All right, what do we got next?
Well, okay, I do want to say this one thing. Like, you might be right because all of the draconic talent cards are just red. So maybe I didn't consider that there will be maybe influx of red cards potentially in the set. I was kind of thinking of it being like, you know, who knows how many reds we're going to see in each pack, but so maybe there will be some more reds in that sort of thing, just so Burn Them All can stay out longer. So anyway, we'll move on to Dracona Optimi. So both the Invoke and the Dragon I have as 1 card because it is 1 card.
Yep.
So I gave this a 2-star rating. Yep. It's good, but it has like a lot of timing and is very expensive. So I just don't know how much, like how great this is going to be in terms of like an investment for your game plan. But is very powerful. I will give it that. But it like costs 6, and you know is tough to play. I think because of that.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I gave it 2 stars initially, and then I bumped it up to 3 after considering it. So yeah, drawing this with 2 blues it seems like pretty low odds, just considering what your deck will consist of. However, after thinking about it, if you do play it, it'll deal 2 to 6 arcane damage to your opponent, kind of as a surprise. and will require them to keep and attack for 6 physical, and require them to save, enough cards to then kill it on their turn. So that type of, just surprise power play, I think just in my mind bumped it up a little bit in power level. Um, and once again, it blocks for 3 and it's a red, so it can be, your resource card if it's not online or if it's too early in the game or whatever it is, right? So yeah, I'm gonna say like hesitant 3 stars.
Okay, cool. I got nervous, but all right.
All right, on to the next big baddie, Invoke Tomotai.
Tomotai.
So I gave Invoke Tomotai 2 stars. For a lot of the reasons you were talking about. His ability is not very online, right? Because you're not trying to attack their pretty janky equipment compared to constructed,
Right.
right? And his prohibitive cost just makes his value fairly low. He only attacks for 5. A lot of cards are 5 attack, so a lot of cards can kill him with just one swing. And again, it's just like you're getting no value out of the ability. So solid 2 stars.
Nice. I gave Tomotai 3 stars
Ooh,
because it's just a really strong ability that you just kind of need to get off once. And like a lot of the equipment is like not super powerful, but is super, super useful. And so getting to potentially play this and just like, strip a card and their piece of equipment is like a pretty good like tempo play. You know what I mean? And then if they don't have a 6, like the upside is just a little bit better on Tomotai, I think, than Optimi. But could be wrong. I think I'll just say that after
nice.
every card. Could be wrong.
Disagree. Take us to the next dragon.
Okay. Next dragon is Domina. Domina, excuse me. Um and so I gave this a 4 stars. It is much lower costed, blocks for 3, and like you said, is a resource card, and then has this like super good ability that you cannot interact with. So if they spend a 6 to pop it, you also get to look at their hand and banish like a whole other card. So it's just really powerful, even if they stop it. And its health total is at like a break point. So if they don't have a 6, they have to spend one of their cards that is at one of those break points to kill your dragon. So I gave it 4 stars.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. I only gave it 3, but I agree with you. It's 4 cost, means that you can pitch a blue and a red to
Yeah.
play it, as opposed to the 5 or 6 costs. And pitching a red will then replace the ash that you consumed by
Yeah.
summoning it, which I think is really good. And the odds of you having a blue and a red in your hand are much greater than the other high cost dragons. I will say its ability you have to hit off the top. So the odds in your deck might only be like 50-50 or something, and then it might be dead next turn, but still really powerful. And I agree, the 4 health makes it a bit more beefy, right? They can't just like throw any random card at it to clear it. So yeah, all that combined, I think it's my favorite of the bigger
Yeah.
dragons,
Of the
and I
majestics.
think it's quite
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah,
Same for sure.
definitely. Okay, on to the rares here. We have Invoke Azuli. Asvoli. Sorry, I'm not fluent in this language.
In Draconic.
Yeah. I gave Invoke Asvoli 2 stars. It's a 2/3, so it's not putting in a ton of work for you. Its ability is useful when combating another Dromai, but I guess it's split damage against an opponent, but it just does not seem that, you know, that influential or impactful on the game state. Its 0 cost can come in handy, but also has the downside of you don't pay for it to then create another ash to replace it. So kind of a double-edged sword there, in my opinion. What do you think of this dragon, Bailey?
I gave it 3 stars. I mean, it's still a red card that's free and blocks for 3, and then it just kind of has like a pretty good attack, right? So even if it's like, let's say you have like 2 Ash Wings out and you just took a big swing and all you do is play Azulai from Arsenal, you're still like potentially getting quite a lot of value out of that 1 card hand because of that, because now all your dragons have go again. Assuming also that they don't have a 6 in their hand. So um, there's that. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I think it's a pretty good dragon. Okay, on to the next one. Chromai. And I gave this a what did I give this? Sorry, they all get blended together here. I used little tiny like asterisks as stars rather than writing them, so when they're all close together, it's hard to tell. Um I gave this dragon 4 stars. So the fact that it gives you an action point is really good. So even if they like uh, pop it, you still get to continue to have your turn. It's cheap. So I think it's a really good dragon that you would want to pick up for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I only gave it 3 stars, but I think it's a 4-star dragon in constructed. I'm a little unsure exactly how many sixers there'll be in limited, so I'm not, I'm just like not aware of exactly how impactful this is. But it's definitely, definitely one of your bread and butter dragons, just as far as putting in work and making it so your whole wave of attacks comes in. I think it's just fantastic.
Awesome.
Yep. So moving into Invoke Kyloria. I really, really like this dragon. So I gave this 3 stars. All of these dragons that are 1-costed, I really, really like because, like I said, if you pitch a red and play them, they replace the ash that you consumed. So if you only have 1 ash up and you have a bunch of 1-costed dragons, you can kind of keep this train going, which I think is really important. I can, foresee circumstances in which you will not have enough ash generation and it'll really gum you up. So I'm a huge fan of the 1-cost dragons here. Kyloria also has a very powerful on hit, right? Like odds are you're not going to take their item. I don't even know if there are items in the set.
There are not.
you would be very happy to draw a card on this 4 breakpoint. I guess I would say the only downside is the 2 health can be killed with like kind of any spell that can target a dragon or Fi's weapon. So they are a bit more fragile, but just like the impact even only on the turn where you play it, I think is very valuable.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It doesn't get that 4-star rating for me because of the low health, but I mean, it's a draw engine, attacks at a break point, all of the things you said. Excellent, excellent dragon. The rare dragons are for sure my favorite. These are the ones that are super good. I think there's 2, like going off cuff here. There's a world in pack 1 you hoover up all the 6 attack cards, and then in pack 2 you like wind up with opening some of these like pretty good rare dragons, and then like take that. Maybe the person passes you one because they're not in Dromai, so you can just kind of craft the draft to get extra value out of your dragons potentially.
Man, that's really the dream.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all rares, so I am unsure how many dragons we'll see in a draft, but hopefully enough.
Hopefully. Okay, so next dragon, Miragai? I don't know. So I gave this one a 4-star. This is like the quintessential dragon I think you want to draft because all of your dragons lose Phantasm. So now any investments for later dragons, they can't be broken with one card. So, and it's like has kind of a bit of a beefier amount of health, so it requires one of your opponent's best cards to kill it. And then that's like 4 damage not going at you. So I think it is a 4-star dragon, and maybe the one I think is the best. Maybe not though. It's hard. There's a lot of other good ones coming up. Over to you.
Yeah, I also gave it 4 stars.
Nice.
For all the reasons you said, the high health total, the one cost is excellent. You're also not kind of bound because they're not like attack action cards or whatever. You can, it's like you can play this, you can play Kyloria, then you can attack with Kyloria first, no Phantasm, and then you could attack with Mirage, and or you could just not attack to not risk it.
Yeah.
It's kind of up to you. So yeah, that makes all these really
Yeah, I
powerful.
like the dragons that are just like out there with an ability like that, and so you can hopefully use your other ones.
Yeah, definitely. Our next dragon is I kind of really like the flavor of this one. It's Invoke Necria. And I was kind of unsure about this dragon. I think I'm going to give it 3 stars. I don't like the 3 cost on it, but because Ash creation is so so critical for your deck and you're unsure how much they'll be, playing this out I think will like more than pay for itself, right? It's a 4/7, so it's a bit hard to kill, and if you get like 3 ashes out of it being out on the field, that's pretty amazing value actually. So I actually quite like the value of this dragon despite the kind of awkward cost.
Yeah, Necria, I gave 3. I'll just read what I said. Necria, 3 stars. Unsure of how good this is. Makes an ash, and that must be good. Yeah,
Exactly.
totally. So it has to be, right? You need ash for like so many things. So it's very good.
Yeah.
It's also the cool undead dragon, which Poppy like. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, on to Uvia. So I gave this 3 stars. I think it's the same kind of deal as Necria, because it turns your ash into ash wings, and that's like very good. It's a terrible attacker, but you probably don't want it to be attacking anyway. You just want it to sit out there and be the mother of dragons and continue to make ash wings on your turn.
Nice. So I gave Uvia 1 star.
Wow.
Because so I could be proven wrong here, but to me, your Ash production will not keep up with Uvia's Aetherwing production, and she might be like hoovering up all the ashes you need to summon like more powerful dragons, or you utilize in other ways. So in a world where you have like Necria and a bunch of sweeping blows and Uvia out, that's like really amazing, like a really amazing engine, and that's really the dream. Just my fear is that you will not have enough ashes to actually capitalize on Uvia's ability. So that's where I landed. 1 star. Prove me wrong.
Sweet. I just like, okay, cool. Cool. We'll see what happens. You're next. You're
Yeah.
next.
All right. On to Temia. Temai. I did when I went through these cards before, I didn't read them out loud, which now I'm
Is it
regretting.
the my?
Theme. Teme. I'm gonna call it Teme.
Isn't there a pronunciation
Um,
article somewhere about all this stuff? I think.
well, we need it. um, yeah, I'm gonna. So Teme, I'm gonna give. I wrote down 3 stars. I want to give this 4 stars. Because this dragon is just broken against Eastlander. It's so good, and it has decent attack and health against 5, but it costs 2, which I don't really love. But just for its value against Eastlander, it's like pretty insane. Which is only 1 out of 3 matchups. I think is why I only gave it 3 stars. But yep, sold.
I gave it 2 stars because of its narrow use. Um, can be fine if it's like your third dragon in your deck, but uh, is you know, it's not great because of its 2 cost, I think.
Yeah, I did notice in this set a lot of cards are actually like preferably sideboard cards. You probably won't have so many cards that's always a luxury, but as we go through, a lot of the design space, it's actually because you want this in your sideboard, right? But you're right, it is very, very narrow use case.
Yeah. Okay, next dragon, second to last, hardest name probably to say, Vinskurakai. I tried to flow through
Vinserakai.
Vinserakai. That's what I tried to do. I have this brings me back to like major anxiety when reading out loud in class. This is what it feels.
Totally. Now we're reading to a million
Thousands of
people.
people, yeah. So I give this 2 stars. It is like really powerful, but costs 3, so you got to have a blue, and dies to a phoenix flame basically. So only 2 stars for me.
Yeah, I agree. I also gave it 2 stars. It's a really big power play when you throw it out there, right? And they have to block 6
Yeah.
or take
Yeah.
9, which is pretty huge. But if Eastlander happens to have a ice card in Arsenal that can attack it, then she can fizzle it right there. And like you said, Fi can just pop it with a fire Kodachi, essentially. So I do like it for the tempo swing, the pressure, but there's like also a number of ways this can fizzle. If it replaced the ash it burns, I might be a little bit higher on it, but yeah, that blue cost is just pretty
Yeah.
rough. All right, some of my favorite art in the new set. Invoke Yenderai. So this dragon I gave 2 stars. Um, I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's just like a great workhorse dragon, 1 cost, love it, but it kind of has no effect out there, right? And Fi will find it fairly easy to do 2 separate sources of damage to it. So will Dromai. So I'm pretty low on it, but you know, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I gave it 2 stars too. Cool ability, but I don't know why you would pick this dragon over any other dragon that has come before it. So it's the lowest on my list in terms of, I think, dragons. Probably that or Optimi are like the ones I would care the least about. Okay. Next card. So now we're getting into the attack actions and action cards. So we have Billowing Mirage. I gave this 3 stars. I think it's a good card for the Dromai engine. It blocks well, and I kind of like it in all 3 colors, actually. So there we go.
Yeah, I agree. I also gave it 3 stars, specifically in blue or red. And it does everything you want, right? Like getting Aether Wings out, quickly in a fast format. It'll play and it'll make an Ash, and then it'll turn it into an Aether Wing. It'll also attack for 3. It kind of does like everything you want to some degree. The one thing I will say about some of these that function in the spot, in a blue spot, right? So I like this in blue because it blocks for
Mm-hmm.
3 and it like functions, but it does not give your dragons go
Right.
again, right? So playing out the blue is maybe not quite as functional as it sounds in in a pinch, but still great. On to a similar card, Dunebreaker Centipie. So I gave this 3 stars also. Specifically, in red or blue, love it in red, right? Because it gives all your dragons go again, threatens 5 damage with go again. If they waste their 6er on it, it sucks because it fizzles your turn, but they have not affected your board state at all. I'm fairly high on this card. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think in yellow and blue it's like 3 stars, but maybe in the red it's like maybe a 4 star, just because it does everything you want, right? It's like I mean, I guess the downside with it getting popped is that then your attack is like over, but it doesn't have to be like the first card you play as well. So, um if anything, makes
Mix
an
and
ash,
ash.
yeah, for your
Yeah.
trouble, and then you have two, and then now your Uvia engine is freaking up and running.
Nice callback. I meant it makes an ash just paying for it. But yes, also if it gets popped, then it makes
Yeah,
another one, which
totally.
is
Which I
yeah.
I really like that. Um, okay, so next up is Dust Up. I gave this 3 stars, um, but I could be talked down. It In the red, I think it's pretty good because you can make an ash wing, which I really like, and that's at like a break point. Um, but the fact that it does not have go again could mean it's actually really bad. So, um, yeah, that's what I got on that.
Yeah, I gave it 2 stars, which I actually really like this card in red for sure. It's like a great finisher, right? So like in Dromai, if you're living the dream and not having an in-betweener turn, you have these openers like Dunebreaker, Cenopai, or whatever. Makes an ash, has go again, turns on your dragons, you swing with dragons, and then the last dragon you swing with has go again, right? So a free dust up is like pretty
Yeah,
great to throw in there. But to me, it's not an essential part of any of the engine. So that's why I kind of left it at 2 stars,
yeah,
I think.
I think that's fair, especially at yellow and blue. Like, I'm probably just blocking with the blue, right? Anyway, you know,
Yeah, or you know. um all right, on to Ember Maw
yeah,
Senpai. So I give this one 4 stars. I don't know if it quite merits that, but the red's powerful. The blue still comes in for 6. So this card can be one of those finishers at the end of your turn and has a huge effect, or it can be kind of swung on its own for still a pretty pivotal effect. Sucks if it gets popped, but at least you get an ash out of it. So this card to me is like a win-win.
yeah. I only gave this 2 stars because of its like large cost. Two in a kind of deck that's incentivized to run reds makes it like
That's
kind
fair.
of tough. And it doesn't have go again. And yeah, so that those two things make it a 2 star for me. But I also put in my notes like maybe it's just like better at in second cycle. So maybe those blues and those yellows become like pretty good after they've popped everything, and now you kind of have like a pretty big attack that was your pitch card, coming in second cycle. Next up, man, we're motoring along. We're doing great here.
Nice.
Sweeping Blow. So I gave this 3 stars. It does everything you want. So it like costs 1, is a red, has go again, and when you attack with it, it creates another ash token. Um, I really like it. I mean, obviously in red. In blue, it's pretty cool too because it's like a little plinker damage there, and gets you that ash token, those 2 ash tokens you kind of need.
Yeah, in red, I'm giving this 4 stars, just because it's one of the like few ash generators. Some other cards like Rake the Embers kind of work, but then consume more than they create. For example, Sweeping Blow is just like if you get a red turn one, you're just you know you're psyched. This is going to get everything going for you. So I'm really into the red in this. The blue for the same reason, but again, doesn't turn on your dragon. So early, maybe the blue's still fine to play. But yeah, really, really high on that card. Just very
Yeah, I
functional.
think there's a world where like Sweeping Blow and Dune Breaker, like both of those in blue are like great turn one, right? You can like play out this card that doesn't attack for very much, but starts your like engine and keeps a red card in your deck
Mm-hmm.
for second cycle. So, and like turn 1 or turn 0, you like don't care if they pop it, if it's Cinnapai, and then sweeping blow, they just like, inefficiently block it or take a damage. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I up?
Uh, I'm up.
Okay.
On to Rake the
Nice.
Embers. So this card in red exclusively, I'm talking about. I give it 3 stars.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, just because the blue doesn't, I mean, it's fine, right? But the blue also blocks for 2, so that puts it quite a
Yeah.
bit lower. But Rake the Embers has a lot of value to me in that it generates up to 3 ashes, or Aether Wings, which, I mean, Fi might prioritize your Aether Wings, but then he's not attacking you, to me, generating Aether Wings, which are like difficult damage to negate, is just like one of the main things you want to be doing. Also, playing it then turns on your other dragons. To me, this card's kind of a staple.
Yeah, I also gave it 3 stars in red specifically, because it does, right, all of the stuff you want. It's a red card with go again, pays for 1, makes your weapons basically. So yeah, very very good. Okay, next up we have Skittering Sands. I gave this 3 stars, but only because when you value the red one as a 0 cost 4 attack, basically, because it gives an Ashwing +3, um, then it's pretty good, right? So it gives your dragons go again, turns one of your Ashwings into a 0 for 4, basically. So when you value that in terms of like other cards that are 0 for 4s, like those are usually typically very good. So specifically the red one gets a 3 stars, but I could think of it as more of like it could go all the way down to a 1 star. I don't know.
Which is exactly what I gave it, 1
Yeah,
stars.
nice.
I mean, point taken, 0 for 4 auto go again is like really great, right? It also transforms an ash, which is what you're trying to do. But to me, that just it's just not part of your engine, right? Like, I mean, it gives your dragons go again, but just the fact that it doesn't make an ash, it gives a temporary buff. I don't know. I could be way off base here, but it just doesn't feel like that's what I'm trying to do with my turn.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
On to Sand Cover. I also gave this 1 star. Very good for blocking arcane or just, whatever. There's no defense reactions in this set.
There are.
But
Yeah.
there are. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I guess so. But anyway, there's no fate for seeds
Right.
in this set. But to me, like, I'm much higher on Oasis Respite than this card. Just because to me it feels bad to just burn an ash for like no you know for just like a temporary payoff, no like permanent gain. And I could be way off base here, right? Because you're playing essentially a blitz format and it might be like too fast for like the kind of engine or consistency I'm looking for. So sand cover might just like, be a great payoff and then the game's over. But just, at base value to me, burning my ash to block for 4 was not very appealing.
I gave it 2 stars just because of like the same uh logic I used for Skittering Sands. Like in red, it makes one of your ashes a 0 for 4 defense reaction, which we know is good, right? And even in yellow, like there are a lot of cards that attack for 3 in the set too. Like that's kind of the same thing, but it doesn't get any higher than that because it's really dependent on how well your deck is doing at making ash, right? So like you said, it could be a liability
Mm-hmm.
if you use your one ash that you have out that could be like a freaking cool dragon, just to just block 4 damage. Or you have a bit of a surplus, and then it's great to use 1 for 4. So yeah, 2 stars. Okay, on to Draconic Ninja.
So our first card here is Heat Wave, the arms for the ninja. I give this 3 stars. Equipment's great. It has Quell 1. It's great. I'm a little less high on this one because you can't gain the benefit of the instant unless you're using, like, along with Quell, unless you're blocking,
Yeah.
Eastlander's instant speed attack. Otherwise, it's kind of one or the other. But still great to just have a Quell on the board.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Obvious. I think all of the like class equipment, I think is I give 3 stars, and they're just all staples. Like giving your Phoenix Flames like +1 is pretty huge, because you can like loop them with Phi and that sort of thing. So it could be like +2 damage. So it's like then it's like basically a Goliath Gauntlet at that point, and that's a very good card. And then it also blocks, so better than Goliath Gauntlet. Okay, so first up here we have Phoenix Form. So I gave this 2 stars. It seems fine, but it seems hard to get all of the modes. And as a like kind of basic Draconic chain link, right, which is what we're trying to do here in Draconic Ninja, it's like fine, right? So yeah, you like maybe have to spend like a Phoenix Flame that attacks for 0, and then you come in for a 0 for 3 with Go Again, So 2 stars.
Yeah. I actually gave this 4 stars, but not for its, balmy nature, just because it's like everything you want, right? It's like a 0 for 3, Go Again, blocks for 3, Draconic chain link at worst. If you manage to plink it up to 0 for 5, Go Again, that's insane. So to me, there's kind of no downside to having this at all. It's like, yeah, it doesn't have Go Again without a Phoenix Flame, so maybe you have to arsenal it and play it next turn. But to me, it's just like, one of the money cards that you're trying to get to pop off.
Yeah, I'm unsure of how like much of an upside it does have. It's just like an okay card, I think, in my eyes, but we'll wait and see.
So I had Spread the Flames at 3 stars, but I'm going to bump that down to 2 stars, actually. If you have like your engine's firing off, this is really powerful, but to me it's a little bit too cute to get the benefit. Maybe 3 stars. We'll go back to 3 here. But it's just like it blocks for 2, and I don't know how many of these +1s you're going to get out of it. But obviously very powerful if you get it to work. I don't know.
I gave it 1 star.
Oh.
It's like, it really depends on like the correct hand, the correct resources. Like a lot of Draconic Ninja stuff like costs 1 or 2 or something, and you want X amount of like what are they called, chain links, and so to spend one of my like valuable resources on this that blocks for 2, it's just like there are other cards that have better abilities, I think, in limited, and whereas like, yeah, the upside on this is like maybe it's not even good as good as Phoenix Form in my opinion, which is why I gave it 1 star. Okay, next up we have Combustion Point. So I gave this also 2 stars, but it could be a powerful finisher, and it blocks for 3, so that's really good. but it costing one just makes it like a really fair card, right? Um, and like I said, like your draconic chain links are like really important to a lot of your cards. So spending one of your resources that could be an attack, maybe is like, I don't know, less ideal. So that's what I got.
Fair point. I gave this 4 stars.
Nice. High on
Um,
all the Draconic
because
Ninja stuff.
this is like well, hold on. Wait till we're all the best cards are up here in my opinion.
Oh.
um to me, Combustion Point is it's like the route of this set, right? Like you get to banish a defending card, right? So it's like giving an attack +4 and, can very easily win you the game, in that sense. There's very few, defense reaction type cards. So I think that this is actually quite powerful. And leading into the next card as well, I'm like pretty high on the 1-cost ninja cards because for a blue, 1 cost and the weapon and some 0 costs function really well. I'm like much lower on the 2-cost or higher cards. So, to me, yeah, the Combustion Point 1 cost is definitely a cost, but you know, anyway, I like the game winning nature of this card.
Mm.
So in that same vein, on to Engulfing Flame Wave, which I give 1 star. Because of its 2-cost nature, right? Like it does have a pretty powerful ability, and I might be wrong here. I mean, I do recognize what this card could do. It's just you can't pitch a blue and play this card and swing your sword. And with any of the 1 costs, you also have the sword with it, ideally. So that's why I'm pretty low on it. What do you? It also blocks for 2. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's all fair. I really like the attacks that have auto go again. So I gave this 3 stars because 2 of its colors are at really good breakpoints, and getting to add another card to the chain can be like pretty important. Because there's like a number of other cards that also have like free go again, so you could pitch a blue and still like hit something like Mounting Anger or Rise from the Ashes or uh you know etc. Cinder Skin Devotion. There's just like a lot of cards you can hit with just a blue that like can keep you going. So I gave it 3 stars. I lost my place. I got excited. Okay, next is Mounting Anger. So I gave this 2 stars. I think it's good in red and blue, but only good based on kind of the cards in your hand. So based on what you're holding, potentially makes this better or worse. And it only blocks for 2. Classic ninja stuff. You're like not blocking, you're just attacking. So that's what I got. What do you got?
Yeah, so I gave this 3 stars. I actually really like this card for the aforementioned 1-cost compatibility with the weapon. When you consider its ability, also, it's kind of like 1 for 5 go again in a sense. And I like the fact that you banish the card and can play it this turn as opposed to the next card proc, right? So if you're going to play this and then swing the weapon because the card you banish doesn't have go again, you can still do that and it'll still get the benefit of it, right? So you can go Mounting Anger, sword, and then your free attack with no go again for +1. So, yep. Also blocks for 2, but for all those reasons, I like what this card does for you.
Nice.
All right. On to Rise from the Ashes. So let's see. I gave this 2 stars. It's okay, right? So because it fetches a Phoenix Flame, you do get a chain link from playing this card, which I think is kind of what you're looking for. But everything else about it, I don't really love, right? Like you can already get a Phoenix Flame from Vi's ability once in the turn. So then you would have to have two online to make this work. And again, this card does not create a chain link. It just gives a temporary buff. So I'm just not that psyched about it. Over to you, Taylor.
I gave it 3 stars. I think it's good in all of its colors because it basically replaces itself and can be a thing that helps you push your like chain links higher, you know? Um, so yeah, I think it's good. So 3 stars. Then moving on, we go to Brand with Cinderclaw. I gave this 2 stars. Um, it has a pretty good ability. It has free go again, but it gets negatives for not being a breakpoint and a 2 block. And maybe the best is the blue one, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm unsure about this card. I also like how we're both just all over the place with Draconic Ninja.
Yeah. We'll come back when we've played it
Yeah.
in limited sub. Yeah, so I gave this 3 stars, which is weird because I don't really love it. Because it's
Just
like,
sticking with what I wrote down.
yep, I wrote it here earlier. No, so if the next card you play is a generic card, it's great because it includes it in your Draconic chain link thing, but it has to be a generic card with go again.
Yeah.
So it's like contingent on that, which kind of makes the ability not great. The only reason I like it is it's 0 for 3 go again, right? It does all the things, it doesn't cost anything. So just in that vein, it's what you want, right? Um, in red specifically. Again, blues, I'm higher on 3 block blues, but I guess it functions in a pinch. All right, moving on here. Cinderskin Devotion. So I gave this card 3 stars. It's just 1 for 4. I know conditional go again, but 1 for 4 go again and blocks for 3, I think is like pretty good. So this comes with a caveat getting 3 stars in that there's like you need so many cards with auto go again in your deck to open your chain links, right? Or open the chain or start the chain off. And then you have all these cards that are like conditional go again depending on what came before it or rupture or whatever. So like obviously if you have too many Cinderskin Devotions, it gets way worse. But I'm rating it in terms of like 2/3 of your cards just have go again, or half or whatever. So in that sense, everything in moderation here.
Yes.
All right.
So we're on the
What do
same
you got?
page with this card. I gave it 3 stars in the red, but 2 stars for
Yeah.
everything else, right? Like 1 for 4, conditional
Mm-hmm.
go again. I mean, even if it's like Phoenix Flame for 0, Cinderskin Devotion into the weapon, that's still like 7 damage for a blue, which is on curve for 3 for 7 damage. So
Yeah. Well, and that only costed you 1 card out of
yeah,
your deck
exactly. Yeah.
at
And
weird
so
breakpoints.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
really good.
So but then it goes down like with every color after that. So 3 stars in red, 2 stars in the rest.
Gotcha.
Next up we have Dust Runner. 3 stars. Simple, effective. Red's the best card.
Yep. I'm on the same train. Auto go again, cost 1, pairs with weapon.
Totally. Excellent.
Lava Vein Loyalty. I mean, this is in the same vein, right? I gave it 3 stars because all the aforementioned arguments, right? It's like 0 for 3, go again, blocks
Yep.
for 3. It's just great. but again, don't plug too many of these in your deck.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars too. It's everything you want. It's a Draconic Chain Link for free. It blocks for 3. You know, it has go again pretty easily. Yeah, classic
Yep.
staple. Rebellious Rush, I gave 2 stars. Too expensive. Blocks for 2. And has no upside. That
Yeah.
that's why I gave Engulfing Flame Wave 3 stars, because it has that upside compared to Rebellious Rush.
Yeah. I gave this 1 star for
Nice.
all those reasons. I'm just not interested in the especially block for 2 cost. I feel it's really gonna like hamper your turn unless you have all. Yeah. I'm over it. All right, let's see. Rebellious Rush. Oh, sorry. What am I? No, Rising
Yep,
Resentment. We just did
correct.
Rebellious Rush. Um, so Rising Resentment. Um, let's see. Oh, I don't have that in here. That's why. So I'm gonna give this like 3 stars on the fly. um, it's the same thing. 0 for 3, go again. If your hand's a bit too expensive, it like demands a block that way. So when you throw out a 0 for 3, go again, and your opponent has to question whether it's worth this whole card from their hand to, hamper your turn, or if you can pay for anything down the line anyway, and they're going to face a rupture at the end or whatever. I think it, kind of begs a good question there.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Good in red, but maybe it's even better in the blue, because then you're really having to block inefficiently, and then maybe you get to play Rebellious Rush for 1 for 5 go again, which would be pretty dope. Which then makes
Yeah, well, I'm not running those, but
well, you get stuck with one, I'm just saying there it could
yeah.
be better. Okay, second to last card here. We got Ronin Renegade. Uh I gave it 2 stars because it's just like less good than Rising Resentment. So it gets 2 stars.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I gave it 3, but not too many of these filler cards, right? It's great filler in red,
Yeah.
not great, blocks for 2 in blue. I'm not super into it. But it gets you that quota of whatever it is. I've yet to find out, but 2/3 of cards have to have auto go again, or something like that. So I think that's very important. On to Soaring Strike here. I gave this card 4 stars in red. I love everything it does. It like at the 4 break point, it's hard for your opponent to block, and it like fixes your hand, right? If you draw it with too little go again. Or, if your hand's great this turn, you can arsenal it and then fix the next hand with too little go again or whatever. I just think that's it's just a great fixer card to make your deck more consistent.
I just don't get this card, so I gave it 2 stars. Like, does this hit effect like matter, right? Like, I guess if you throw it out there and it like hits in the red, then you get to then it gains go again, and or you get to play something that potentially already has go again. I don't know. I just didn't.
Well, you get to play a card from your hand that doesn't have go again with go again.
Right, but then you've just drafted like a bad card. You know what I mean? so so I
Fair.
so then it's just a like 1 for 4 go again, which is like fine. We have like better cards that we could draft with better hit effects. So, but if that hit effect does
Fair
matter,
enough.
then it becomes a 3 star card. That was my reasoning.
Gotcha.
Okay, on to Draconic. Okay, so we have our first legendary, which is the Flame Scale Furnace Draconic Equipment Chest Piece. I gave this 3 stars. Just because like the fact that it has temper 2 makes it super, super good. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a pretty cool ability, but in draft, I'm unsure of like how much value you're going to get out of this when you like can't have like a perfect ratioed deck to gain a ton out of the like once per turn instant gain resources ability. But still blocks for 2, which is huge, so it gets 3 stars.
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars actually. Because the temper is so good even if you don't use the ability. And yeah, I'm unsure how this is going to play out, if you're going to have a really great deck or if it's going to be like a ton of yellows and blues and red, cuz then it's not really ideal. Um I really like this card because you can do like some cheeky stuff, like you can pitch a red to play like Billowing Mirage or whatever. And then you can pitch another red to activate it, and then you have 2 resources to play like Ember Moss Centipie, right? So you've made 2 ashes and you get 3 resources from 2 reds. You can also you can play rake the embers. Sorry, it's still new. You can like play Rake the Embers, not let it resolve, and then instant speed Flamescale Furnace to make another ash to get your full like Rake the Embers, value. So anyway, there's just a lot of little interactions with this card that I think are like really, really good and make it less punishing to have a deck full of reds. That said, you need to have enough reds in your deck to capitalize on this. So anyway, moving on to the generic chest, unless you have any follow-up thoughts.
No. You're just liberal with the 4 stars, man. Throwing them out willy-nilly.
I think this is a 4-star pick.
I mean, you're like, if you open it, you're gonna pick it, right? Like,
yeah,
anyway.
totally.
Yeah, you're not passing the legendary you open.
Well, I had like a lot of 2 and 3 stars pretty much exclusively. And then I was like, well, I gotta have like some more 1s and 4s probably just to make it, because then we're just on a 2s and 3s scale here. Which
Yeah.
I was like, that's no good. Anyway, moving on to Sash of Sandakai. I mean, this gets 3 stars, as does all the equipment, right? From me.
Yeah.
It'll save you a bit in some of these red heavy decks, or right, like a resource when you need it is just great when you're trying to run a lot of reds.
Totally. Yeah. That's what I have is Sash of Sandakai, 3 stars. A free resource is always good. So boom. There we go. Next card is Thaw. I gave this 2 stars. Has a narrow use, but is a popper, which is good, but it doesn't do enough other stuff to get it over that 2-star hump. And the only reason it gets 2 stars is because it is a popper. If it was not, then it would be 1 star or 0.
You're gonna hate me. I gave it 4 stars.
That's so silly.
But because it has a lot of value against Eastlander and Dromai, right? And 6 damage is kind of a lot of damage in limited, right? So anyway, yeah, it only blocks for 2 is kind of the downside for me, but just the fact that it's like good into 2 out of 3 of the matchups, and like maybe kind of essential in 2 out of 3 of the matchups is to me like really, really powerful here.
Yeah, I did not. Well, I'm just going to talk about this a little bit because I'll go into more of my reasoning here. Like, so in Phi, it's like expensive and has no kind of like hit effect or go again. So it just feels like it's a blocking card in that deck. So then it blocks for 2. So then you like leak damage. And then if you're not against Icelander, then hopefully you blocked a dragon or something with it, right? So then it's just like those are all if scenarios. And then if it's Dromai, it's like cost 2. So then it doesn't really help the engine, and it still doesn't have go again. So maybe you can like tack it in at the end of a chain link, but then maybe like one of your dragons got popped, so then you don't even play it. So then it's into the same realm of like it just blocks or just attacks, and then it's just like basically a generic. So then it's like 2 cost, you know, or 2
Yeah, that's
stars.
totally
Yeah.
fair. Um, I definitely get that argument, especially like if you're running it in Dromai. I think it's kind of just a sideboard card.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, Dromai you can play a 1 cost and then a 2 cost with just 2 reds though, also, or a blue. Oh, sorry, you can't without Flamescale
Yeah.
Focus. My bad. So yeah, in Dromai, maybe it's just a sideboard card for the mirror, but just in the other decks, it just seems really, really powerful. Because like against Eastlander, if you play it, then it's just instantly online for when you need it, which I think might kind of dig you out of the the ice and could win you the game. Against Dromai, it's gonna like end her turn and be better value for you than for her, I think.
Yeah, I
So
don't
I'm
know.
I'm
Yeah,
sticking
you
to
could
it.
just like side in blues to get rid of frostbites, and like the ice afflictions are hard to play, and frozen cards might not happen that often. So I just didn't. Maybe it's
Yeah.
actually one. I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
we'll move on. We can't.
nice. Well, I'm going up to 5. I'm just kidding.
uh,
Um, okay,
I
on to Liquefy.
Yeah. Is this my card now? I think it is
Yep.
mine, right? No, it's yours.
No, because
Yeah.
I just did Thaw. Yeah. Um, so I gave Liquefy 1 star.
Oh, thank God.
Um,
Whew.
if you see my notes, I don't really have that many 4s. I think you're just hearing them. But anyway, I gave Liquefy 1 star because it's just like not
Right.
applicable,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't do any damage and it's very expensive. And I don't know. They can even pop it and use the quell if you're gonna
Right. I know.
liquefy it.
Yeah.
So terrible
Yeah.
card.
I gave it 1 star, but maybe I should just give it 0. you know.
Mhm.
Next up, we have Uprising set name card, which is pretty fun. I remember that in Star Wars Destiny, they always had a card named for the set, which was really fun. So this card's cooler because of that already. So I give it 3 stars. Blocks really well. It makes a non-breakpoint card much better, since we know there's like a bunch of ones that attack for 3. So it just is like pretty functional in both of the Draconic decks, and it blocks for 3. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, I give it 2 stars. It's okay, right? Like in Phi, maybe you'll get 3 or 4 damage out of it if you're not under any pressure, but it doesn't give you a chain link. In Dromai, it gives your dragons go again, but the only real value you get out of it is if you have like enough Aether Wings out, so just highly conditional. But like 2 stars, just totally functional. Red blocks for 3, no problem. On to Tome of Firebrand. So this card I was like highly unsure of and remain unsure, but I gave it 1 star. To me, it's just too conditional, right? It like doesn't block. To play it, it has to be like a 5 card well set up hand in Phi, or Dromai, I guess. And the rest of the time it just like doesn't do anything and doesn't block.
Uh,
What do you
I
think
gave
about
it 1
Firebrand?
star.
Nice,
Yeah,
me too.
it's just not powerful in draft unless you have like a bunch of free attacks, or your turn only costs like maximum 3 resources, and Tome of Firebrand is one of those 3 resources. And it doesn't block. Yeah, 1 star, maybe 0 stars. Like
Yeah.
getting this pack 1 pick 1, I pass it. I don't even pick it to be like, now my deck, I will build around this. I'm in Draconic 100%.
Yeah,
Just fucking
totally.
pass it on. I'm picking Thaw over this thing. Okay, next up is Red Hot. I gave it 2 stars. Could be powerful, but expensive and has a bit of RNG in it, so I don't like it as much. The Rupture, I want to say this about Rupture, is really hard to grade anything that has the Rupture keyword because it's like you gotta kind of get there, for it to like get its
Yeah.
full costed potential. So those are hard. Anyway,
Yeah, you can't have too many rupture cards. Then they're just all
right.
bad, right?
Yeah.
But I also gave Red Hot 2 stars, but I'm going to downgrade it to 1 star, I think. Um, just because it's like damage inefficient, right? Like, so it's a 2 for 4 no go again, and then if you do pull off the rupture, it's like slightly above curve. So to me, it's just bad. Um, Rise Up, however, I gave 4 stars because it's it's like 1 for 3 blocks for 3, and it's like kind of a win condition, right? Like it gains dominate and gains a number of attack points. So to me, in this, like low health game, that could be a very good win condition for you.
I give it 3 stars because it has just um kind of like similar stats as other cards in the set with a like upside, right? So it's easier to hit potentially because it has 1 cost, and then maybe it's like 1 for 5, which is pretty good. So 3 stars. Um,
Cool.
Blaze Headlong, I gave 3 stars. Good, solid card.
Yep. I had it at 3, but I bumped it up for 4 just for you. But
I just want you to know,
seriously though,
once
it
we've
is
been in Draconic, you've given 3 or 4 things 4 stars, mister. I don't have that many 4 stars.
totally. I also have 5 1-star cards in this
Yeah,
section.
yeah.
So, um, but Blaze Headlong, it's 0 for 4 go again, right? It's just really good all around. So, sticking to it. 4-star card.
3 stars. Blocks for 2.
Um, Breaking Point, I gave 3 stars because it's like 1 for 5 is pretty good value. You can still pitch a red to play it in a pinch. It pairs with Vi's weapon. It blocks for 3. So even if the rupture is not turned on, this card just has like great value.
Yeah.
And then if rupture happens, it has insane value.
Yeah. I thought of it as like, I don't know, what is it, like Kadachi, then 5 attack, basically, like some
Yeah.
Ira BS. Like, even if it's the 3rd attack on the chain, like a 0 for 3 with go again, sword, and then this, like, that's pretty good. So I gave it 3.
Yeah. Still most of your health.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars because of that. And like the rupture is
Yeah.
like a great bonus. Burn Away, I said, is 3 stars. It is good and possibly easier to get off its ability compared to like other stuff. So 3 stars.
Nice. I gave it 1 star.
Nice.
You're just being pretty liberal with the 3 stars, Taylor. You're giving too many 3 stars.
Well,
All
you
right.
can just like if your Phi deck does not have a Phoenix Flame either like ready to go in your graveyard or like in your hand, then your deck is bad. So it doesn't matter what cards you have. But if your deck is like seemingly okay, then Burn Away is fine, right?
So here's my argument: is if you see Burn Away earlier than one of your Phoenix Flames, one of your additional ones, then you can play it and burn your only Phoenix Flame, but then you can't use Phi's ability, right? So to me, that's too steep of a cost for just like 0 for 4 go again. It's great once you have multiple Phoenix Flames in the graveyard, but I just don't want that kind of liability for like a lower upside, in my opinion.
Blocks for 3, so that's why I give it 3 stars also.
Definitely. Okay, on to Flameborn Retribution, which I also gave 1 star for all the same reasons. Just not enough upside for the condition.
Yeah, it's a 1 for 3 with go again, right? So it gets 2 stars for me, but I wrote, I don't get it, but has go again. 2 stars.
Well, if you open with this and then Ezelander's dumb enough to attack you on this chain link, then it's online.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
yeah, 1 star there.
Uh,
All right, Taylor, what do we got?
we have Flame Call Awakening. So I gave this 3 stars. It has great synergy with everything you're doing, and it tutors a Phoenix Flame for your burn away play that you got going on. So it's great. 3 stars.
Nice. Yep, I gave it 4 stars because to me, this is like everything you want. It's like a 1 cost that pairs with a sword or whatever, and it tutors the Phoenix Flame out of your deck to get it online with some of these other cards I'm not running, apparently. But right, then you don't have to draw this Phoenix Flame that just doesn't attack, doesn't block, and then like swing with it to get it in your graveyard, right? It just like bypasses having the junky hand and puts it in your graveyard where you want it. So to me, having not played Fi yet, this is like, that's super powerful, tutoring out that no block red.
Yeah, the reason it doesn't get 4 stars for me is because it defends for 2 and attacks for 3. So if it defended for 3 and attacked for 4, I mean, then it would be a 4-star bomb card, right? But that's why I did not.
That's also just above
Yeah,
curve.
I mean that's why I didn't give it that extra star there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's you.
Moving on to Inflame. So I gave Inflame 2 stars here. It's just a 0 for 1. Go again, right? Which is fine, and it fetches a Phoenix Flame. But if you only have 1 online, then 5 is going to get it anyway, and you just spend a whole card doing 1 damage, or maybe 2. But you know, again, there's no mass triggers in this limited set, so it's just like blocks for 2. I think this card's maybe a 1-star card.
I gave it 3 stars for the reasons that you want to get to that 4 chain links, right? With a lot of these Draconic cards for Rupture, and anything that's free and then gets you another card, it's basically 2 chain links for 1 card, right? And it's 2 damage as well, because you can play that, then get your Phoenix Flame, and then play your Phoenix Flame, and you don't have to spend any resources on Fi's ability. So it just gets you 2 free chain links right away. So I gave it 3 stars. And plus people aren't going to block it. So it's like free 2 damage, you know? Next we have Lava Burst. So I gave this also 3 stars. It's one of the easier, I think, of the Rupture cards to get to work because it is free. So, you know, Inflame, play, then you get your Phoenix Flame, play that, Sword, Lava Burst, boom, 0 for 5. Easy. 3 stars.
I also gave it 3 stars. 0 for 5 is awesome. Contingent on not having not too many Rupture cards in your deck, obviously, but you know, it's just great.
Yeah.
Okay, on to Searing Touch. So I had this at 2 stars because it's kind of the same thing except cost 1. However, I've been mulling it over, and that 2 just unblockable damage is like pretty good. Like that could close out a game for you. It can also kill an ally. So, you know, I may be sleeping on this a little bit here. I think it may be better than 2 stars.
I also gave it 2 stars because it's just okay, right? It's like if you're getting to Chain Link 4, it's kind of like maybe a win more situation anyway. So, and it's like the same thing as, I don't know, other cards. It's like 1 for 3 without go again, so it's not at a break point, but it does block for 3. So yeah, 2 stars. It's just okay. Next and last in Draconic, we have Stoke the Flames. I give it 2 stars. If it's online, it's maybe 3 stars, but it's just 2 stars.
Yeah, totally. I gave it 2. I might downgrade it to 1. It's nice that it blocks for
Yeah.
3, but giving your opponent a contingent go again is just like bad, right? Because then they can just block this card and then your turn's over. And leading up to this turn, you don't know if they're going to let you have it or not. So you don't know how many cards to save, right? So you took a bunch of damage, play Stoke the Flames, they block with 2 cards, and now your extra cards just should have blocked. It's just, you know what I mean? One of those like conundrums,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
guess.
I guess if you play it correctly, it could be better. Like you play Inflame, play the Phoenix, the Flame Phoenix, then you play the Sword, then you go in with Stoke the Flames and you have a Phoenix Flame in your graveyard already. I don't know. Or
Oh, if you have 2 Phoenix Flames
yeah,
in
or
grave,
you
yeah,
could
it gets
you can
better
even
then.
close the combat chain and then play Stoke the Flames,
Ugh.
right? Because it is not contingent on what chain link it's being played at. So then it's like, or do you want to get hit with another like Phoenix Flame, right? For 1 is basically what it's saying. So maybe it's 3 stars.
Yeah, did you say close the combat chain?
Yeah, is like
I'm
it's like a
just
real
kidding.
thing I would do if I had Stoke the Flames and Inflame in hand.
No, it's smart. If you have no rupture up
Yeah.
and you have multiple cards that need to fetch a Phoenix Flame, then just keep attacking with Phoenix
Yeah.
Flame, the
Yeah,
same one.
exactly. So maybe it's 3 stars
Um,
now that I think about it.
I'm glad we really landed on a solid, cohesive piece of advice for this card. So we're going to move into Icelander here, but I hope you all enjoy this short commercial break.
Have you ever been belittled by brutes? Perhaps you've been overwhelmed by non-stop ninja naughtiness. Tired of being whipped by wizards and warriors? Are you wrecked non-stop by rune blades?
Then what you need is Techlo. At Techlo Industries, we provide the tech you need to survive the wilds both in and outside the city of Metrix. At its core, Techlo is all about speed, and our products are legendary. We have the heart and the drive to keep you alive. Techlo Industries, building a better future, yesterday.
Welcome back, everybody. We hope you enjoyed that lovely commercial. So we're going to move into Icelander cards here. And first up, we have Encase, which I gave 4 stars. Just for you.
Thanks.
I think this card is really, really powerful. Just because it costs 0, right? So it's just super efficient that on your turn you can deal 3, fuse it, mess up your opponent, and then arsenal the card you fused with. If it costed 1, I would not be as high on it, but I just think it's a really, really powerful tempo card. Odds are they're not going to be able to block it, so its effect will apply. How do you feel about Encase, Caleb?
I give it 3 stars. It's just not like a ton of damage. And there is a world where they have 3 Ash Wings out and they just block it, right? But then it strips a card, and like you said, it's a free card that allows you to arsenal your blue for more tempo on their turn. And the hit effect is excellent if it does hit. But because of its like potential downsides, and then it not being like, a blue, etc., and needing fusion, it only gets 3 stars. Next up is Freezing Point. I gave this 2 stars, but maybe I should give it 1 star. It is a lot of damage, but it's very expensive, and part of its like cost and ability and stuff is built into the fact that it could have damage amplification, but the likelihood of that happening with its high cost is pretty low. So like at most it's 6 damage for 2 cards, which is kind of like, whatevs. So what do you think, Isaac?
I gave this 4 stars as well. Because so I know it's hard to pull off the bonus damage on it. If you have the hat we'll talk about later, you can do that, however. But to me, it's just like 5 almost unblockable damage, right? If they only have Quell, they can only block 1. This just comes in tall, and you can't really block it for 2 cards. It also turns on the staff if you see this like turn 1 and just have extra cards to play. So I think it's just really, really powerful for that reason. Alone, still blocks for 3. Any rebuttal there, or you want me to move
well,
on
it's
here?
just because like you can deal 5 damage easier with 2 cards, like on your opponent's turn, and give them a frostbite. So freezing point does not have like those upsides, right? So like for a blue, you can play other 2-costed ice wizard instance that deal 2 damage and then come in with waning moon for the exact same amount of damage, and it does a bit more than freezing point does. And then that other card that's an ice wizard card has like the added benefit of being like a blue blocking for 3 and fusing, whereas freezing point has none of those benefits. It's just 3 for 5, and you can get that with like more common cards that do more.
All very fair. What you're talking about is split damage, I would argue also. So this tall damage, you get less value from Arcane Barrier or Quell, but points taken for sure.
You got it.
So moving on here to Sigil of Permafrost, which I'm a bit unsure about. I gave this 2 stars. You get a lot of value playing this to block for 4, and then or infusing it, and then getting your damage out of arsenal on their turn. It's like a lot of value in that world. It's just its cost conflicts a little bit with Waning Moon. Does not turn on Waning Moon. And it doesn't. I don't know. I'm unsure. Definitely will slow him down though.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars because there are all of your ice wizard cards you can play from Arsenal don't have hit effects. So this is like a cool way to stop like a prominent hit effect or breakpoint or something like that and deal them damage that then you can slow them down with extra frostbites. So it gets 3 stars for me in the red and even in the yellow, but is very bad in the blue, I think. But that being said, it is like a tentative, it's like a 3-star minus, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then we have Ice Eternal. So I gave this 3 stars. It really is pretty good at stopping your like opponent in its tracks. And you are like already going to have a bunch of blues anyway. So you can like pitch 9 and make 3 frostbites and then swing moon. And that's like 6 damage. And you kind of have like 1 left over for Sigil of Permafrost also. So that could be like an extra combo card. So then you like make even more frostbites. So in a hand where you have like a bunch of blues, it's like really good, especially against like the red line decks. And like 3 frostbites is a buttload of frostbites. So it really slows your opponent down.
Yeah, I think those are good points. I just had this at 2 stars, just because of the cost associated with it. I imagined a world in which you pitch 2 blues, right, for 6, and you have to have the fuse card in hand. So then you just make 3 frostbites and deal 3 arcane damage, which then if you pitch the 4th card to then swing Waning Moon, you don't have an arsenal card for next turn. So to me, that was like maybe stops their turn, but doesn't do much damage. And then you may or may not have an arsenal, but just goes right back to them. I was unsure because of the amount of cards that really cost you to, pull this off. So I give it 2, but could very well be wrong. All right, moving on here. Unless you want to talk about that specialization anymore.
No, I think in a previous draft I said it was like maybe a bomb card. And I would like to recant that. I would say it's very good, not very bomby. Yeah.
Nice. Keeping it correct. Boy, I'm really going to contradict myself here. So Succumb to Winter, I gave 1 star. However, if you have the hat, this goes up to like 3 or 4 stars. Just because I thought, so the 3 cost doesn't pair with the moon, and I thought that it would be unlikely that you would get the fusion effect. However, if you have the hat, you just get it when you want it. So then it becomes like really, really good, right? So I don't know, 1 star contingent, or could be 3 stars, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so this is like the same as Freezing Point to me, right? And so it gets the exact same rating of 2 stars. So it gets...
Yes, we understand, Taylor.
It gets 2 stars, for all the same reasons. Like, it is 5 damage, which is cool, and it blocks for 3, but it's like a whole combo thing to fuse it, but is like maybe better if you do get Glacial Horns, and even Frostburn for that matter. But that's like a whole big combo thing. So 2 stars, and that's only 2 stars if you actually have the red card. I think it's worse if you have the yellow or the blue even.
Oh yeah, I was also ranking the red at like 3 stars if you have the horns.
Yeah. Okay, next up is Aether Icevein. I think this card, on the other hand, is good in all colors because the fusion effect that you get, turning on that hit effect for it being basically the Azalea equivalent of the Ice Wizard situation, is good because then your opponent like either can't block it or has to block it because they're going to lose a card anyway. So I think it's good. 3 stars. Good.
Yeah, I agreed. The Lexi equivalent.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Wizard.
Gosh, shoot me with an arrow right now.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, the red's good on your turn, the blue's good on their turn. It's just a great card. Moving on here to Brain Freeze. So I gave the blue only 2 stars. Probably the other one's less. Just because against fire or something, it's probably pretty disruptive, but in red or yellow, you can't play it on their turn. So I don't know if it's really worth your action point there. How do you feel about that card?
I gave it 1 star plus. So
Nice.
It's 1 star, but it gets like a little bit of a plus if you have the blue, just because it's like a blue that blocks for 3 and is free. But it
like buys
it
you
like
some time.
yeah,
maybe,
it like
I don't
does
know.
basically freaking nothing, but could be cool. I don't know. It just means like you maybe like, I don't know. Yeah, it's not good. 1 star. Icebind, on the other hand, I think is quite good in all of the colors, and I gave it 3 stars. It doesn't deal a ton of damage, but it has a really good hit effect, and yeah, So that makes it good, and it blocks for 3, and it has the like in case upside, right? Is that when you have a free damage card that has fusion, that then you can arsenal your blue fusion card. So that is like really nice that it turns on a hit effect that they then like potentially have to block or just have their arsenal frozen.
Yeah, I gave this 3 stars for all the same reasons I love Encase, right? Because it's free, has the good hit effect. I don't really like the yellow or the blue. To me, the blue is just like, it's like they might have already played out their arsenal card on their turn. It's not that hard to block 1 arcane damage. I don't know. Red only 3 stars for me. Okay, on to Polar Cap here, which I gave 1 star. I just don't. The fuse to me is just not as powerful as I want it to be. And it's a 2-costed card, so it has like anti-synergy with Waning Moon. That's kind of my argument here, right? So like if you're doing the red, it's okay. If you're doing the blue, then it's like, I mean, yeah, you give them a frostbite, but you only do 2 damage, and you can't activate Waning Moon also. So for me, that's like pretty bad. What do you think?
Yeah, so I gave it just a frostbite is like pretty good in limited, it like does a lot. So because of that, I gave it 3 stars in all colors. It blocks for 3, and then like you can play it at instant speed. It also like pairs really nicely with permafrost. So that's like a huge upside to give it even more frostbite for a single blue. And it also blocks for 3 in all colors as well, obviously. So those things. So like in blue, right, it's like a hit effect that maybe slows your opponent down. It could also block for 3. In red, it deals like more damage and has a hit effect. So I think that warrants it's like 3 stars, but could be wrong. And that it pairs with freaking permafrost is just awesome, I think. I just really like that synergy. Nice. That's just a lot of frostbite.
Yeah, I think you're higher on the permafrost train, and I'm a bit higher on the Waning Moon synergy train.
Oh,
these different trains.
Don't you wait. There's just like, there's plenty of Waning Moon synergy, baby.
All right. What do we got
okay,
next,
well,
Taylor?
we move from Elemental Wizard into Ice Wizard, which is the best type of wizard. So we have Conduit of Frostburn.
Hey, Pano has a bone to pick, bro. Okay.
Conduit of Frostburn, 3 stars. Pairs good with a lot of your cards, and it has Quell. Love it.
Yep, I give it 3 stars as well. I'm like unsure how often you'll be able to utilize Quell and break their arsenal. I just don't know how often arsenals will be frozen. But just great.
Pairs pretty great with Polar Cap and a blue. You get a block 1, use the instant speed, all of that stuff.
Nice. Polar Cap's looking pretty good.
Exactly, 3-star card.
All right, on to Frostex, which I gave 4 stars. I think this card is phenomenal. I mean, it's a blue, it blocks for 3, right? If you play it on their turn, it gives them a frostbite anyway. And so in limited, I envision they won't always be able to pay off all of their frostbites anyway. And it always gives you the option to, after their whole turn's spent, to then give them frostbites that will just count as damage rather than disruption, which I think is pretty powerful. Tell me about Frostex, Taylor.
I gave it 2 stars. It's like for sure good, but it requires setup and specific cards. And in the Draconic decks, they are like incentivized to go quite wide upon you. And so because of that, like it's very rare that you'll have enough health to take 2 or 3 attacks to deal like 3 damage on their turn with like whatever ice spell you're playing plus the frostbite you give. So just the return on that investment is not great in my opinion. So 2 stars. Aether Hail, on the other hand, I give 3 stars. It is great in red and blue, and it pairs super good with Waning Moon, especially in blue or even red on your turn. So I really like that card. I think it's a real staple of the deck for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that card's insane. If I wasn't restricted in my 4 stars, I'd probably give it 4. But I do have 3 stars written down here. Just because the red on your turn is like 2 cards, 6 arcane damage, right? On their turn, it's like 2 cards, 5 arcane damage. It's just insane. And a frostbite. So, sold. Moving on to frosting here. They, LSS, man, they just can't help themselves with their funny names. Anyway, so frosting here, I gave 3 stars in just the red. I think the other cards are pretty garbage, but just again, you do your shenanigans, 1 card on your turn for 3 damage, and then Arsenal I think is really good because a lot of times you're going to find it hard to be able to do something on your turn, their turn, and your turn again, and keep that cycle up. So I think that these cards that enable you to just like fling damage, Arsenal, maybe block some, will really up your productivity just because it's 1 card instead of 2 cards. I think is going to be fairly huge.
Awesome. Yeah, I gave this 3 stars. I like it red and blue. It's just a good tempo card, especially in blue. It fuses, it blocks for 3. This is like the card that's even better, or is one of the good cards for the permafrost synergy with Waning Moon. So then for a blue, you can play permafrost, fuse it, and also fling frosting, and you get 2 or more, right, with the Waning Moon damage frostbites on their turn. So it's like a way to like add a little extra damage to your permafrost combo.
Dude, the blue also just murders Vincerikai right in his tracks, just a little
pink,
just a little frosting on his toes, and he drops out of the sky.
Totally. Should have brought a scarf, bro.
That is definitely the best action movie one-liner.
Okay, we're losing it here. Ice Bolt.
It's getting silly. We've never done this before. This is a marathon.
It's still at the length in which a regular episode is at this point, but we still have a lot to go.
Nice.
Okay, Ice Bolt. I also give 3 stars in red and blue exclusively. We got our 5 damage for 2 resources, and the 3 damage from Arsenal with a frostbite for a yellow is just really good value. So 3 stars.
Yeah, I gave this 2 stars, but I agree. It's just good value, right? Like decent damage on your turn, okay damage on their turn. The 2 costs prevents you from using Waning Moon. So if you have the option to draft like 1 cost cards instead, they just do more damage for a blue, which is why I don't particularly like this. But again, beggars can't be choosers. You got to take what you
Permafrost synergy. That's all I'm saying.
Totally. Waning Moon anti-synergy. I'm just saying over here, All right. On to Coronet Peak, which I gave 4 stars just because it's a legendary and it's like fairly disruptive, probably to Fi especially. But I don't think it's going to win you the game. However, it also blocks for 2. which is pretty cool. So, huge, huge value, obviously.
Yeah, 4 stars. I mean, repeatable card stripping is very good, and it blocks, and it's like it just creates windows for you to like blast them with arcane damage, you know? And that's like the best part
Mhm.
about it is that it's like every other turn they only have like 3 or 4 cards, and that's just like so huge for you chipping in that damage to win the game.
Yeah, and if you hit your like weird off turn, or you know what I mean, you can't do your normal cycle, then you can just be like, all right, well, I can block and strip a card.
Yeah, totally. If you have frosting and like I don't know, polar cap in hand or something, you just want to like pitch polar cap, strip a card, and then arsenal frosting or something. If you're like left with 2 of your
Yeah.
blues, it's like the best. It's better than like flinging frosting at them for 1 damage, because then they're just taking 1 damage and not stripping a card. So very good. Very, very good. Okay, next up we have the hat, Glacial Horns. I
Nice.
gave it 3 stars. I mean, just if you are Ice Wizard, and you don't pull Coronet Peak, you want Glacial Horns, just being able to freeze a card when you want in their arsenal or an ally is super good. And then it kind of turns on some of your like hit effects for other stuff in the deck. Like all of a sudden Succumb to Winter gets good, but don't bet on that. It's just a great like one-time tempo piece.
Yeah, totally. I gave it 4 stars actually, just because I mean, on its own, it's equipment and has a pretty good ability, right? There's not that many turns in a limited game, and the ability is pretty good, but then it makes some of your other cards pretty insane. So like now all these cards I kind of like hated on or don't think are very good, it's like they're good on demand. Because his action, or the Glacial Horn's action has go again. It's like, oh, drew my Frozen Arsenal card. Boom, Glacial Horns, boom, hit you with this. So I think that's pretty nuts that it just like makes those cards on demand full value.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Succumb to Winter, I think, right? That's the one card that makes it really good with that.
Oh, fair
So,
enough.
which is a common. I mean, it's a rare. So you might not see that many of them, but is a good combo of just like, maybe taking out a bigger dragon or just like their arsenal card. But you got to fuse that card. So 3 stars.
Yep. On to Channel the Bleak Expanse. I gave this 1 star. Not applicable.
Yeah, I also said 1 star. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think so.
Just not a limited card.
Yeah, defends for 2 has an effect that is not really relevant in this set. Costs 1, is an ice card, which is cool, but that's it. Next up is Hypothermia. So I gave this 4 stars. It is a free frostbite and stops them dead in their track, and is a fuse card. So it does a lot, despite its ability is really, really powerful. So like it turns off all of the dragons, and because it's so powerful for the frostbite and its ability, that it even though it blocks for 2, it gets 4 stars.
Yeah, I also gave this 4 stars. It's actually pretty broken and limited, it seems, Just it's like free, so it's like frostbite, end your turn.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, it has a downside that anything that already has go again keeps go again. But
Yeah.
anything that gains go again, such as like Aether, Ashwings, or a lot of the conditional draconic cards, can't happen. So like the weapon,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like boom, you play it on their weapon swing from Phi, boom, loses it.
Yeah, totally. It's just the fact that it's free.
Yeah.
It's like so
Yeah,
good.
very good.
And then Insidious Chill. So I gave this 3 stars because of the power level it has. I think this card is insanely good. I'm unsure how effectively you'll be able to pull it off in a limited game. But I don't know. Tell me about this card, Taylor. What
I
do
gave
you
it
think?
2 stars, but said that it has a big upside, but it takes like a lot of setup and needs to have the right deck for it to work. You know, you got to have like the right ratios and that sort of thing. But it like still blocks for 2 and costs 3, so it's kind of tough. So just 2 stars for me.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Eisenhower Weathervane. I gave this 1 star. It's a win more card that doesn't block and costs 1.
Yep. 1 star. Terrible.
No permafrost synergy. But it has waning moon synergy, Isaac.
Totally. But then you haven't done anything.
Well, you made a frostbite and dealt 3 damage. I don't know.
Oh, if you play the blue on their turn. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like it would buy you time, but it's just, it's just bad.
Yeah, no, 1 star.
Arctic Incarceration is kind of in the same vein here. I gave the blue 2 stars just because it's like free, give them 2 frostbites, buy you some time. Like I would use this blue as deck filler.
That's okay. I gave it 3 stars. So in blue, I think it's a really overperforming 2 block card because it's 2 frostbites. And then in red, if for some reason that's the only card left in your hand, is really good. 3 frostbites is quite a lot for these red heavy decks, especially when they have cards that cost 2 that now cost 5 and they're not flush with blue cards. So it's a good piece of tempo. This is like the card that I think maybe people are going to think is bad and are yelling at me for giving it 3 stars, but I'm going to die on this hill and say it's 3 stars.
Nice. That's a good disparity because the red got 1 star from me. I'll be over here on this hill.
Okay, last ice card here is Cold Snap. I give it 2 stars. It has good tempo in blue, and I would not run it in the other colors.
Yeah, so I gave it 3 stars in blue only. It's just a really good tax, and the fact that it replaces itself, so you replace the card you pitched for it or whatever. Excellent waning moon synergy. Play this, tax them. You essentially haven't, or deal some damage, and you haven't lost a card. It's just because of the draw card makes it really good.
Yeah, I just find that the one cost is sometimes they have like 1 resource floating already, so it doesn't strip another card sometimes. So that's why it only gets 2 stars, is because they got to kind of like mess their turn up, or you got to catch them in the right spot for it to be a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, you give them a frostbite and then they can't use their arsenal, which, could affect the other classes. A lot of times you're operating on a pretty slim resource margin, but yeah, you don't know. Okay, so Ghostly Touch, I gave 1 star. I think it's worse than like the generic hands in limited only. Because it's like odds are, you're gonna, maybe they pop your stuff twice and then you can remove a counter, pay 3 and attack for 1. Doesn't do anything else.
I said 3 stars. I kind of really like it if somebody is like popping all of your stuff, and then you could, just from the upside of that, then you kind of have a mid-late game like monster of hands that are just slapping people in the face that now they have no 6ers to break anymore. So could be a good addition. But I fully could be wrong.
No, that is a good point, though. It's like, I don't know, might as well have it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to pick it if you open it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it doesn't get the 4 stars like the other legendaries do. Just because it's contingent upon somebody stopping you dead in your tracks for the whole game, and then maybe you lose anyway. So, but has a big upside in the mid to late game. So 3 stars. Next up, we're in Illusionist cards now. Ooh, Illusionist. Silent Stilettos. 3 stars. All of the equipment is good in this set. You want the ability. You especially want the Arcane Barrier. So, 3 stars.
Yeah, really good. 3 stars. Enough
Sweet.
said. Frightmare, 1 star. Just not online in 99.9% of the time. It also doesn't block.
Yeah, this is my 0 star card. It
Nice.
like is so specific and is a like win more situation, but it's like, how do you even get to play this if another illusionist attack action has been destroyed? You know, you then have to pay another 3 with Silent Stilettos, or have the dragon that gives you an action point. Like 0 stars.
Yeah, or semblance, but it's just like not happening.
Speaking of semblance, next up is Semblance. I gave it 2 stars because it could be a good gotcha card, but it does not have a lot of synergy in the rest of Dromai, so could get bumped down to 1 star.
Nice. Yeah, I had it at 1 star. I think I'm gonna bump it up to 2 though, just because it's a blue and you need to have some amount of blues in your deck. And so, you know, if you draw too many blues in a hand, then this actually does something, maybe. Now, I'm bumping it back down to 1 star because it's like the odds that you draw it on the turn where they pop something is pretty low.
Right.
You know. So yeah. All right. Transmorgify. This is a pretty fun card. I actually don't like this card in Constructed, but I give it 3 stars in Limited because you're gonna have like, you know, yellow sweeping blows or like generic attacks, or you know what I mean? You don't get to like pick what's in your deck so well. So having like a red Transmorgify could actually be really, really powerful. So I'm pretty high on this in Limited.
I gave it 2 stars. I think it works well with the Dromai engine in the red, or maybe even in the other colors because it's a 1-coster. But I think there are better cards in the set to fill this spot. So only 2 stars for me. Moving on to the ninja cards. So another legendary, Tiger Stripe Shuko. I gave this 2 stars. I think a lot of times you might not be attacking for 2 or less on your second attack. If you do, then it's like a 3, and that's kind of easily blocked. But it has 2 armor, but it has Blade Break, so then it gets docked a star. So just 2 stars for me.
Gotcha. Well, it's not if you're attacking for 2 or less on your second attack. It's your second attack that turn that attacks for 2 or less, which is a bit more online with the Phoenix Flames and all that. I gave it 3 stars just because it blocks. It's probably pretty nice that your like attack or Phoenix Flame can't get like quelled to death. You know, maybe you can, if they pop their quell, you can work around it a little bit, but it's, you know, not really great. Moving on here. We're in the ninja stuff now. Did you already say that? We're in the ninja stuff.
Hiya!
We're on to, I think these shoes are hilarious because we already had time skippers.
Yeah.
We're on to Tide Flippers. So Tide Flippers, I gave 3 stars. It has Arcane Barrier. I don't. I mean, if you have the attack reaction online, it's actually kind of threatening. I don't know how much that'll come up, but having Arcane Barrier is going to be necessary.
I gave it 3 stars. I mean, I could maybe bump it up to 4 because if you said to me, so what if Snapdragon Scalers had Arcane Barrier? I would say best card in the game. I'm running it in every aggro deck. And that's basically what Tide Flippers is. So 3 stars for sure. Maybe 4. 3 stars plus.
Well, very conditional.
Yeah. But
Snapdragons. You can't snaps your red snatch,
totally.
Or you can't Tide Flippers.
But as we know,
you can with the blue, though, as we know Mitch will be doing to us.
But
blue snatch,
having your feet give an attack go again is really good. So 3 stars plus for me. Also, really some of the funniest artwork because they look like those little water shoes dorkos wear to the river or the ocean or whatever. Probably mostly people in Australia.
Have you never worn water shoes?
No. What am I, Hayden Dale? New Zealand dude who lives in Australia, always wearing river shoes.
That's hilarious. I've worn water shoes plenty of times kayaking, so pincher bugs don't get your feet.
Yeah, and one of us is a dork, and one of us is a cool jock dude. So
totally, you're so cool. You're really selling it.
We'll let the people figure that one out. Okay, back on track. I'm up. So Double Strike, 4 stars. It's for sure a bomb card. It's 2 chain links for 1 card, basically, and it's great. Love it.
All right. Let's so I, being a bit more conservative with my 4 stars, I gave this 3 stars. I agree. I think it's really good in that it enables your rupture and your combat chain so well. Phenomenal, right? In that sense. It'll still only does 2 damage and blocks for 2. So to me, there's, but I don't know. And then you fetch your Phoenix Flame for free no matter what. It is very, very good. 3 stars.
Yeah,
sure.
I just don't think there's never a world where you block this unless you're like almost dead, right? So it's like 2 free damage, 2 free chain links. And when you're 5, that's like you're halfway there to any rupture card you may have. So I think it's really good.
Yeah, definitely. So Take the Tempo. I also have it 3 stars. Blocks for 3, 1 for 5, synergy with the weapon. And its hit effect is like really, really pertinent, actually. 5 is quite a lot to block. And, odds are with your Phoenix Flames and these, like the weapon and stuff, you're going to have hit a number of times. So I really like this card. A lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like I gave it 3 stars as well. It's the classic, like plink them in for some damage, then come in with something that you need that demands like 2 cards to block. And then it just like makes their next turn even bigger. So I really like it. 3 stars. Last ninja card, Rapid Reflex. So another attack reaction. I gave this 2 stars. I think it's good because it's an attack reaction, but it has a narrow use, but could be cool on a Phoenix Flame and is definitely best in red.
Yeah, I gave this 3 stars. I really like it because, right, to me, you're going to have a lot of 0 cost attacks, actually. And with the Phoenix Flame, it's like always online. The 1 cost still synergizes with the weapon. If you have the rest of your attacks are free, I think it's very powerful. I also like it in blue because it can plink damage in a pinch, or it still blocks for 3. So I really, really like this card.
Nice.
On to wizard stuff, which I'm like really excited about new wizard cards in general. They did kind of fix now, like Kano has some cards that can like read any target, not just the freaking hero.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like a weird break in game design for a long time there.
Totally.
So to any Kano players, this is also pretty exciting. But first up, we have Alluvian Constellas, which is a very cool piece of equipment with some very cool art. So I gave this 3 stars. It's like pretty good. It's okay, but it has Arcane Barrier 1. That's it.
I
That's
gave
all
it
got.
1 star. It is like only good
Oh.
in the wizard mirror. Then it like overperforms. It's like crazy good. But in the other matchups, it does nothing. And I would rather have our next card, Spellfire Cloak, in that circumstance, because it also has the Arcane Barrier and it gains you a resource. So I gave Spellfire Cloak 3 stars.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. I would probably downgrade this. It's just a legendary, so it's like, 3 stars all around. But I agree. Spellfire Cloak is better in almost all situations. Toma Duplicity, 1 star.
Yeah, agreed. Expensive, okay effect, 1 star.
Yeah, like really expensive way to, anyway.
And then Rewind is the next wizard instant. I gave it 2 stars just because it's probably only good in True Dromai. I guess it's also good into the Ice Wizard mirror, but it like doesn't block and it costs you 1 and it doesn't do any damage and it doesn't even synergize with Waning Moon. So 2 stars, but it could be a really, really good hate card played at the right time. So that's why it gets 2 over 1 star.
Yeah, I gave this 1 star just because even like a lot of Dromai's cards, opening cards are like an attack. And then if she summons a dragon, you can do it. But a lot of those only cost 1. So, it's just kind of like not online for it doing nothing else. Dampen, I gave 2 stars. It's really, really cool in the mirror. Doesn't do shit otherwise.
Yeah, I also gave it 2 stars. It's just like, it's whatever. You would rather have...
Yeah, if you have extra free wizard cards,
you would rather have the other wizard cards for sure.
Yeah.
I want to say though that these wizard cards, although I'm not very high on them in this limited set, I am high on them in constructed with other wizards. I really like them. I think you said something along those lines earlier. Aether Dart, I gave it 2 stars, just okay, is what I said.
I gave it 3 stars. It's the same thing, right? Like a 0 for 3 damage to any target. 3 stars in red only, I should clarify. Right? Just because it only costs you 1 card instead of 2 cards. Things get a little bit different if your opponent has a lot of blues and a lot of Arcane Barrier, but that seems pretty unlikely.
Yeah, I just thought that like red Frosting or red Icebind is just better. So this gets 2 stars.
Kind of. I mean, the reds you're not going to be playing on their turn. So then it just doesn't fuse. But you're right. They are just strictly better.
Yeah.
Or does Icebind attack any target?
Yeah, they all attack any target.
Oh, okay. Read the Ripples, 1 star.
Oh, I've even forgot to put its name in my notes. Yeah, 1 star, meh, is what I wrote.
Yeah.
I think too, well, I'll say this now so I don't forget. I will post a link to my ratings that I have in our show notes so
nice.
everybody can see that.
Cool. I'll keep mine secret.
Perfect. Okay, Singe, on the other hand, I lost my place. It's fine. It's totally fine. I gave 3 stars. It's best in the red, and you can also moon with it for a blue. It's like, I think you kind of got to have it if you're up against Dromai. That's your worst matchup. So you definitely need the red, maybe the yellow. The blue leaves a lot to be desired, though.
Yeah, I agree. I gave it 3 stars plus. It's like it's clearly a sideboard card,
Yeah.
right? But it does so much for you. It kills their arcane barrier and their Kodachis, and pairs with Waning Moon. It's just
And by
excellent.
Kodachis, you mean Aether Wings?
Yeah, their Spectral Shield, whatever. That onslaught of 1 attack.
Yeah, they're called
Gogans.
Aether Wings.
I mean, Kodachis were the, original.
Generic cards.
Crown of Providence. I gave Crown of Providence 3 stars. I think this card is insanely good, but it's not going to win you the game, right? Getting a free hand filter and a block for 2 is like a no-brainer, but not like overbearingly powerful.
I gave it 4 stars. I think it's a real bomb card. I mean, at one point you get a block 2 damage and get 5 cards into your hand or filter your hand. I think it's really, really good. But would I take it over certain other hats? Probably. There just aren't a lot of great options. Would I take it over Coronet Peak? No.
That's interesting.
Well, it just has like a better repeatable ability, But
no, yeah, totally. I just mean that's an interesting scenario. I disagree.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. But also
yeah, I'm not being passive aggressive. I'm just saying what I mean.
I mean, insane draft pulls, right? Is that you pull 2 legendary hats in this.
Yeah, and have to decide.
So not really applicable. Okay, so then I just did all of the quelling close as 1 rating thing, which is cool. And I put them at 2 stars because all they do is quell, and the other pieces of equipment are better in the class stuff because they have like an ability. But these are good and you would be very happy with them, but they might not be the equipment that I pick in my first couple of picks on pack 1.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess it depends on what's in the pack, right? Yeah, I mean, I gave him 3 stars, but just because it's like in so many cases, I guess not against Eastlander, right? Because then they can only block 2 in a turn. But against Dromai or Phi, you can pitch a blue and negate 3 damage. I feel like is going to come up fairly often. So the more that opportunity you have online, the better.
I just wouldn't pick them over the class specific equipment with Quell as well. So that's why I gave it 2 stars.
Yeah, that's fair. Erase Face, I had it 3. I just bumped it up to 4 stars. I think this card is just, it demands a block, right? From so for Dromai, it doesn't take away the dragon subtext. So it doesn't impede her ability that way, but it demands a block from Phi or Eastlander, and it pops dragon. It's just, to me, it's it's so online all the time that this could be like a pack 1 pick 1 situation.
Oh, for sure. You slam pick this every time. I gave it 4 stars. It's like one of the most bomby cards. It's like maybe only not as good into Phi, depending on what his board state is. But even then it's 6 damage, but all of their class cards and stuff lose the talent, right? So then a lot of the cards that need to reference the different chain links, they cannot anymore. So it's super good.
Yeah.
Next up we have Vipox. I gave it 2 stars. It's just good.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars because whether they're blocking with Quell or a card, at the end of the chain for Dromai or Phi, this demands a card. Um, assuming they held any cards. But yeah, I agree. Not really great.
Sweet.
Oh yeah. And then I move on to the next card. Sorry, we've been at this a while. That all you got? Which is pretty funny, I gotta say. I give this 3 stars because it's like really good for a card out of your hand. You can negate some damage and then it replaces itself. It also like moves through your deck faster. It's just like free damage negation to me. I think it's like pretty excellent. 3 stars.
Yeah, it's a 3 stars for sure. It like kind of blocks 6 damage, kind of, because it could block 6, right? Because it like blocks 3 and then replaces itself. So then maybe with another 3 blocks. So it's like that you then could block with. So it's like one card that blocks for 6, which is pretty insane. But maybe my logic is off a little bit. But
or it blocks 3 for no card out of your hand.
Yeah, totally, which is really cool. Yeah. So I really like that as well. 3 stars for sure. Doesn't cost anything.
Well, so it only blocks 2 really, right? To use its ability, to be fair.
But then you can't like do something cute like Rapid Reflex blue and give it +1, or something.
Yeah.
Next up we have Fog Down. 3 stars. I think it's a good card and relevant versus the Dragons. So they just get to invoke and then that's it. So then they kind of have to like maybe play around Fog Down in a weird way. And it blocks for 3.
Nice. I disagree. 1 star.
Nice.
I think this card's pretty bad. It doesn't apply to Eastlander or Phi, most likely. And so if you play it against Dromai, it's fine. But then there's a chance Dromai can kind of play around it, right? And just like play some attacks with Go Again and then attack with her existing dragons and arsenal the dragon she was going to play. I guess it depends on how many non-attack actions she has, but it's just like, it's not like a surprise. So I don't feel like it's a yellow.
Yeah.
And then it costs 3. To me is like a bit too much. I'm going to pass on this one.
Okay. Maybe you're correct. You've convinced me maybe.
All right. I mean, right place, right time. It could be insane, but that's what I'm sticking with it.
This is the first time I feel like you've really convinced me on something and I felt wrong. So good job. 1 out of 90 cards.
Nice. First time ever. Yeah. We're getting somewhere. So Flex, I gave this 3 stars. Just because a 0 for 4 attack on its own is like not that bad, right? It's like Wounding Blow, but I guess blocks for 2. Or it can be a popper, which I think is like, fairly rare and fairly powerful in terms of it would cost you 2 cards to like end their turn and like destroy a dragon or something. So I think that it's very powerful in that sense.
I gave it 2 stars because I would rather, if I'm going to use it really as a popper, I think I would rather have like Findal's Fighting Spirit. But I like Flex is cool because of its name and its design space, right? Like 2 for 6 is the going rate for cards, right? And so is 0 for 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool that it's named Flex and it does the 2 things that are like on curve with every other card. So
yeah, very flexible.
But so I'd still only give it 2 stars, especially because in like yellow and blue, it sucks.
Yeah, definitely. Only the red. 3 stars red, 1 star the rest.
Next up, we have Findal's Fighting Spirit. And I give this 3 stars. The reds and the yellows are good. They're poppers, and it has an effect, right? It's like and even in CC, like if you're looking for sixes, yellow sixes, even in your deck, like Prism puts this instead of Raging Onslaught because it's just good, right?
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, I also gave it 3 stars. You want poppers, and the like 3 for 8 life exchange in red is also just like
Yeah.
really powerful and
Mhm.
limited. You know, even if that's not what your deck's trying to do, if you have an off turn or something, you can just 2 cards swing for 8. Love it.
Yeah.
Um so next up we have Sift, which I don't know. I'm giving this 2 stars in red. 0 stars in the rest. So it works for Dromai in that you can play it and then it turns on your go again for 1 card. So that's really good. And it like digs through your deck, which I like, but it doesn't, it's like a whole card that to not really do anything. And you can't plan around it because you don't know what you're going to draw. You have to keep garbage cards to, you know, then sift them. So I'm pretty off this card.
Yeah, I gave this, what did I give this? 1 star. And it could be better, but I'm not seeing it. So 1 star.
Yeah. In CC, though, as a non-Runeblade, non-Briar player, I'm pretty high on this in Briar.
Yeah, it's like an upgrade.
It could be totally
Upgrade for
wrong.
anybody running Whispers, I think.
Yeah, it's not, and it does your half of your Rosetta and Lightning token and digs. I think that's really good. Just this card digs so much.
Totally.
You know?
Next up, we have Strategic Planning. I gave this also 1 star. Could be good anti-fatigue tech, but it reminds me of So Tomorrow. And So Tomorrow is just like a better card because it like is also a fuse card, and there's no reason for me to have a generic non-attack action that just draws me a card at the end of my turn and puts a card back in my deck.
Yeah, I gave this 1 star. I might give it 0 stars, you know. And it's like the card you draw in your end phase, you get an arsenal, but you might not, you know, who knows? Right? You might draw something you don't want to arsenal. So.
Yeah, totally.
So then in that way, it's just like, yeah, maybe in Phi, it's no, cost 1. 0 stars. Brother in Arms, in the red, I gave 3 stars because it's a popper. Again, just 6 damage and limited is like quite a lot as well. I also kind of like the bonus ability. I don't think it's that great, but it does synergize with Quell.
Yeah.
Or even Arcane Barrier if you want, right? And that it's pretty bad on its own, but you know, you can pitch for it. You can pitch a red to make an ash, you can pitch a blue, use it with Quell. You know, it's not really, just like kind of has a lot of things going on that are okay.
Yeah, I give it 3 stars because it pairs so well with Quell, and you can get it in a red that's a 6 popper. So I gave it 3 stars.
Nice.
We're almost there. Critical Strike. I gave 2 stars. It is an okay fair card. 1 for 5, blocks for 3, no abilities. Pretty generic.
Yeah. I also gave it 2 stars. It's like really good value as a chain ender, you know, for Dromai or Phi, but on its own, then it's like 2 cards for 5. Right. Whereas if you're just swinging with 2 cards, you want like something a little better, like 2 for 6 or, you know, 3 for 7 or whatever. On to our reprint here. Scar for a Scar red. Or Scar for a Scar in general. But I'm looking at the red. I gave this 3 stars. You could argue like, you know, well, probably not higher. The thing is there's a lot of go again attacks in this set. So that I feel like this isn't at quite as much of a premium since it's a conditional go again. But 0 for 4 go again is excellent, especially at an earlier pick. Great in Easlander.
Yeah. We already know how good this card is. 3 stars.
Yeah.
Trade in. I gave 3 stars. It is a free go again attack, and it works well with your Phoenix Flames. Boom.
Nice. Yeah, I gave it 1 star just because the inflexibility needing to play it out of Arsenal. And I don't want to burn any card except a Phoenix Flame because I don't want to burn my deck unless I have like a power combo. But a lot of times in limited, you're not really looking to like just get rid of cards.
Right.
If you're digging for a combo, great. And yes, you do have a really good point with Phoenix Flames. It gets a lot better. So maybe I'm a bit off base here. Let's see. We got 3 cards left. Is everybody really excited? Still awake? Highly entertained? Some white knuckled shit we got going on here. All right. Now that I've hyped
You're
you all
losing
up,
it, bro.
Healing Balm. Healing Balm red. I have this at 3 stars, actually. Only the red. I think the other ones are really bad. And I could be wrong here, but with both Phi and Dromai, you have like lots of go again. And ending the chain with this, I think, is pretty good because it combats both arcane damage that you maybe not be able to block and also this like really wide plinky damage. It like makes up for a lot of that. So I actually think this is fairly good.
I gave it 1 star. It just like does its one thing, and it synergizes 0 with all the other decks. So 1 star.
All right.
Sigil of Protection. I gave this 2 stars just in the red. And it works with like Waning Moon, which is kind of cool. So this one does have a little bit of synergy, but it's still not great. But if I was in Icelander and I could pick up a red, maybe even a yellow, I would be happy to have it.
Yep. Yeah, get that Waning Moon synergy. Yeah, I also gave this 2 stars. It's just not right. Like a lot of heroes can kind of plink it away, or all the heroes can kind of plink it away and then hit you afterwards for something bigger. So to me, it's just not worth the cost. I like the next card much better, Oasis Respite. I gave 3 stars because I mean, it does cost 2 cards, which is unfortunate. If you do pitch a blue, it does pair with Quell if you want to go that route. But it does make an Ash when you play it, and it does prevent, break points and arcane damage. So in the red, caveat, in the red, I think it's actually quite good.
I just gave it 2 stars and said it's maybe better than I think it is. So maybe 2 stars plus, but it's like 2 stars plus or minus, really. I think it could go either way. Well, I'll have to play with it to really see that one.
Yeah, and it could be a bit too card hungry for me. It's just I see the Ash production,
Yeah, no Waning Moon synergy though. Well, that's it. That's all the cards. I had a lot of fun recording this episode and doing this exercise, and especially since we talked about it in our draft episodes as an exercise you could do to help prepare you for an upcoming draft set. I was happy that we got to do this, and I thank everybody for listening to this behemoth of a podcast that is maybe like not very fun to listen to. But you stuck in there and you made it, and maybe you had fun along the way like we did. So thank you.
Yeah, it's an optional pod. If you're into it, glad you're here. If you bailed, then, that's fine too.
Totally is fine. All right. We will waste no more of your time. Thank you, and we'll see you next time Bye-bye.
Farewell.
Thank you for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at the Attack Action Podcast. On Twitter, we are at BattleBroTaylor and at BattleBroIsaac. Shoot us an email, theattackactionpodcast@gmail.com.
If you would like to support us, like and subscribe, shop for singles using our affiliate link, or support our Patreon for as little as $4 per month.